Mr. Lee.
Sure. I wanted to ask on sexual abuse and UN peacekeeping. In this room, a couple of times you've used this figure of 57 complaints and 11 having to do with sexual abuse or exploitation in MINUSCA. And you said to look at the report to UNGA for comparison. But when you look at that report, it doesn't, MINUSCA is not even in the top three. So are the numbers that you're using are comparable to these numbers, or can you produce similar numbers for other missions to know what the scope of the problem is?
Those numbers that we have are the most updated numbers for MINUSCA. If we have other updated numbers for other missions, we'll share them.
That's what I've been asking for
Okay.
several days. Okay, I wanted to ask you about a quote that was given by the spokesman for MINUSCA that I'm sure that you may have seen. To Foreign Policy magazine, just 1 second, I'm going to read you this quote because I think you'll have a response to it. Mr. Hamdan Touré said as follows: when peacekeepers arrived at the site, they were attacked immediately with heavy weapons. I'm sorry, but I don't think someone would think of raping someone at this time. I think they just think of escape. He will think, I'm a human being before I'm a man. If you're under fire, I think you're just saving your life. Really, in this situation, you don't think of a girl, i.e. equating the rape of a 12-year-old with being a man. Or what do you think of this comment, and what are the implications of it?
I think the comment does not reflect in any way, shape, or form the opinion of the Secretary General, the United Nations, or the peacekeeping mission. Clearly, our thoughts and our work and our focus should be on the victims of sexual abuse, whether in the CAR or anywhere else. There is no excuse for rape, none, period. So that's what I'm saying. So the quote does not in any way reflect the position of the Secretary General, the peacekeeping, or the mission itself.
Do you acknowledge that then the problems then go both below Mr. Guy, but also above Mr. Guy? It seems like. The final thing I wanted to ask you is about GAP.
Matthew, I will come back to you. Yes, Mr. Lee.
Sure. Here's what I was trying to ask you about CAR, and I also want to ask you about Burundi. The Government Accountability Project, whom you've said from there you respect much, said in demanding Guy's resignation, the Secretary General apparently thought it's time to look serious about peacekeepers and sexual assault. They go on to say that if the Secretary General were serious, and they go back to the Sangaris case that was in which Mr. Compass says he was urged to resign by Mr. Ladsus. They urged the Secretary General to suspend the investigation of Mr. Compass if he's actually serious, as he said at the stakeout. What's your response to it?
I do respect GAP. It doesn't mean I need to agree with them. I think the Secretary General made a unprecedented decision yesterday, and he sent to strong leaders to UN officials that there will be institutional accountability. On the Sangaris case, he has called for and implemented a full independent external review led by Marie Deschamps of Canada. We look forward to receiving that review and acting on its recommendations.
I want to ask you about Parfait. Obviously, in these remarks that were put online earlier today, it said that Mr. Parfait Onondaga is now the replacing Mr. Guy beginning early next week. So that seems pretty fast, and it's obviously a very fast process. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of Burundi, what exactly is the sticking point on the multiply decided imminent?
There are two different situations. The consultations on appointing a new envoy for Burundi are continuing. As soon as we have something to announce, we will announce it. Mr. Lee.
Sure. I want to ask about Myanmar and also about Mr. Feltman. On Myanmar, I was kind of expecting you to have, maybe you do have. I wanted to ask you, what's the response of the UN and its good office's envoy, Mr. Nambiar, to the ouster of Shui Man, viewed as a primary rival of the current president right before the elections? Some people call it a coup. What is the UN's view of it?
And what is your question on Mr. Feltman?
Okay, the question on Mr. Feltman is in two stories appearing yesterday in McClatchy, lengthy stories about Syria. Mr. Feltman is quoted about things that happened in the U.S. State Department. You're constantly pivoting from portfolio to portfolio, and the second quote was about it's probably accurate to say we underestimated how bad it would be. But in neither quote is he identified as a current UN official. It's basically, it seems like. So I wanted to know, who is he speaking for in these?
I don't know. I have to. I'll look at the quotes. So you can send me the
the
article.
Miami Herald and
I haven't seen it. On Myanmar, we're obviously aware of the change in leadership within the Union of Solidarity and Development, the ruling party. However, Myanmar is approaching a critical period of impending elections and hope all such actions proceed in conformity with the law in a manner that strengthens the democratic framework, as well as respecting the rules and regulations laid down by the Union Election Commission. We call on all stakeholders to recommit to free, fair, and credible elections in November.
I remember it did come up that the special rapporteur, who I know is independent, but is part of, it's called the UN Special Rapporteur, said publicly in a press conference that she was not allowed to speak to Rohingya.
I think, again, the issue of Ms. Lee had come up before. They are indeed independent, but the Secretary General has repeatedly called on all member states to work with them in full cooperation and open all doors to them.